welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. This is the Millstone Report. Happy Friday to everybody out there. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're excited about the weekend. I know I am. We got a lot to get to today. It's one of those episodes. It's kind of every episode now. I hope we have enough time to get to it all, and I don't just ramble. Before we go any further, I want to tell you about Red Vive Health, and I want to remind you that you can get great red light panels, the red light panels that Big Pharma doesn't want you to have, over at redvivehealth.org/Paul. And we'll tell you more about those great red light panels here in just a moment. Yesterday on the program, we kind of spent the last, so we talked to Charles Haywood yesterday on the show, and then the last half of the show, we kind of focused on the MAHA agenda and, what appears to be some rifts forming with people who, were on board in 2024 when it came to basically forging ahead and creating a brand new political coalition. Very exciting times, seeing RFK endorse Trump and, him becoming HHS secretary. A lot of, really positive things. But this replacement appointment, and don't get me wrong, the Neshawit lady was no good. I think that's just, in the MAHA movement, it's just universally understood that the Neshawit lady for Surgeon General was a no-go. Now we've got Casey Means, who's been nominated, and this has sparked some controversy online. There's some people, as we told you yesterday, some people think this is a great pick. Other people don't think it's a very good pick. And I'm just kind of here to report on I guess the divide and kind of show you where different people are coming from. But the way that I can conceptualize it, and I did this yesterday, but to me it just seems like Big Pharma is they're protecting their interests as you would expect them to do, and they're willing to throw big food under the bus to do it. So we can talk about just generally how the health of Americans is terrible for a variety of reasons, but you can't blame it all on sugary cereal and the dyes in our food. You can blame a lot of it on that. Certainly you can, and we've talked about before how there is a pipeline here. Because, if the food dyes, let's just say, for example, the food dyes cause something like ADHD, well, that sends kids and parents running into the arms of Big Pharma, putting them on drugs they don't need to be on for a disease that, many people think can be solved by just allowing kids to be kids and run around and play outside. And that's just one avenue of it, let alone the fact the food dyes that, are cancer-causing agents, and we're finding all this out. And it is extremely positive, in my opinion, that food dyes are getting out of food. That's one of the reasons why I voted for Trump. Because as a father, I hate having to walk through the minefield of a grocery store, knowing that there's so much toxin, there's so many poisons. I think very much when RFK Jr. actually, endorsed Trump, that activated the crunchy moms in the suburbs. It was a very, very good thing. And so I say all that to say, there are good things happening, and I like a Casey Means. I like her stance on the food and how terrible it is. But what about Big Pharma? Where do they have a role in making Americans sick? And I think this is the sticking point, and you can't really get around this issue without talking about the vaccines, specifically the COVID shot, as to why is that still on, the childhood schedule. And so I think the MAHA criticism, the divide, is we want people in there that are going to go after in a comprehensive way. And I know RFK, it's what he said last night in Brett Baird. That's what they claim they're doing. And there are people out in the movement that I think are very entitled to be as critical as they want about going further. Making sure you actually cut the head off the snake. And if you're going to protect Big Pharma, obviously that's not taking the head off of the snake. So anyway, Brett Baer, to his credit, asked RFK Jr. last night about this controversial pick, Casey Means. And again, controversial. Some people love it. Some people don't love it. Let's take a listen to this. I'll pipe this in. This was a tweet from Laura Loomer. She says, wow, Robert Kennedy was just asked about his former running mate Nicole Shanahan's comment. So Nicole Shanahan has been very critical. We covered that tweet yesterday of this Casey Means pick. Nicole Shanahan says she was assured that none of the Means siblings would be in government. And, of course, that's not the case. I believe Callie Means is in some sort of advisory capacity within HHS, and now Casey Means looks like she's going to be the next Surgeon General. Here is Brett Baer from last night.
On my watch.
The Surgeon General nominee was supposed to be a hearing today on Capitol Hill. Dr. Neshwat was pulled. She's heading here to the HHS. What happened with all that?
What happened with her withdrawal? We talked to Dr. Neshwat. We're going to put her at a very good place here at HHS. Casey Means, we felt, was the best person to really bring the vision of MAHA to the American public. She has this unique capacity to articulate it. She's written a book that really mobilized, galvanized the movement. She is an extraordinary. She is excellence in everything that she's ever endeavored.
Obviously, she's come under her own criticism about some of the things she's advocated for. She never finished her residency, and she doesn't currently have an active medical license. But that's not.
She was the very top of her medical class at Stanford. She's during her residency, she won every award that she could win. She walked away from traditional medicine because she was not curing patients. She couldn't get anybody within her profession to look at the nutrition contributions to illness. And she said, if we're really going to heal people, if we're healers, we can't just be making our life about building new procedures. We actually have to figure out new approaches to medicine, and that's the kind of leadership that she's going to bring to our country.
And last thing on this, your former running mate weighed in today saying that she wasn't happy about this and said that you're somehow being controlled. Your decisions are being controlled. That's what she posted.
Listen, you guys sitting here, 4 people who were all canceled during COVID.
Yeah, that's right.
Of these people are, you've got the entire leadership of this agency is renegades who are juggernauts against convention and who are trying to look for truth no matter what the cost.
So nobody's controlling your
Casey
decision.
is among those.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know about was Dr. Oz canceled during COVID? That's news to me. If I was Robert, I'd be like, don't touch me, Dr. Oz. Now, Bhattacharya certainly, I mean, Kennedy was very much maligned and canceled. Bhattacharya has actually, he's in there, and he's actually called for the COVID shot to be taken off the market. Okay, so that is certainly a positive sign. We're not going to, I'm not going to suggest otherwise. Here's Nicole Shanahan. She went on the Glenn Beck show, I think yesterday. She writes, when frontline doctors who gave up their careers, their licenses, and their livelihoods to stand against tyranny during COVID come to me with serious concerns, I listen. So a lot of this is people kind of conveying, they're according to this, they're kind of being a sounding board for those doctors in the MAHA field, in the MAHA movement, saying, I think we need to do better. I think we need to do more. I think we need to go after the whole enchilada, cut the head off the snake. And again, I feel like we're going to put more emphasis, and we need to put plenty of emphasis on the pesticides in our food, the way it's grown, processed food, how it's, you need to certainly do that. But if that's all you do, and you don't actually talk about the medical industrial complex, and you don't hold them accountable as well, we're just going to be right back where we were as soon as you get a new administration. She says, when these doctors come to me, I listen. We all owe them that. I remain genuinely excited about much of what this administration is doing. It's been bold and it's been transformative, but not every choice inspires confidence. And when I've raised concerns directly and been brushed aside quietly, I'm left with 2 paths. Stay silent or speak the truth. It's always easiest to sit on your hands and be quiet, by the way. I know this nomination is likely to move forward regardless, Casey Means, but I'm also not going to sit idly by and say nothing. People deserve to know concerns were raised then will judge for themselves based on the information available and the outcomes that follow. So, yeah, we'll see what the outcomes are going to be. Now, Callie Means, the brother of Casey Means, has rushed to her sister's defense among some criticism, again, within the MAHA movement. There are conservative influencers who think this appointment is fantastic. And Casey Means, again, has said some very, I think, powerful things and has critiqued the industries in a big way. But what about big pharma? What about vaccines? I think this is obviously the big sticking point. But Callie Means is now saying that Laura Loomer, Callie Means comes out and attacks Laura Loomer, just received information that Laura Loomer is taking money from industry to scuttle President Trump's agenda. Laura Loomer, if that's correct, sue me and let's do discovery. So that's a bold claim. A couple of weeks ago, back when we had the news that Robert Kennedy, they were going to discontinue SNAP benefits, food stamps, from buying things like candy and soda and that sort of thing. And then there was kind of a busted influencer campaign. There are these companies that will reach out to people to, hey, if you'll talk about this or if you'll tweet about this, then we'll pay you money. I will just say, for the record, that's never happened to me. I've never participated in anything like that. Of course, I don't have a giant social media following anyway, so I don't think it would ever would. And on this issue, as I'm covering it and expressing my skepticism or other people's skepticism of Casey Means, I'll just say no one is paying me to take this opinion, just for full disclosure. But that's a bold claim. Laura Loomer responds to this. She says, "You're full of excrement, Callie Means. You are a PR spin master. Funny how you never talk about your career in PR and crisis management, and you are threatened by my access to President Trump." Let me click on this a little bit more. She says, "And the fact that the White House officials called me to discuss the post I made about your sister. Why? Because nobody who works for Trump showed him any of these receipts on your degenerate sister." So it's getting pretty spicy out there. And then we have Callie Means responding to Nicole Shanahan. Says, "It's been revealed to me that Nicole Shanahan is collaborating with influencers to sink Casey's nomination as Surgeon General and imply we aren't loyal to President Trump. The only substantive conversation I've had with Nicole was the day Bobby Kennedy endorsed President Trump, something Casey and I worked tirelessly to make successful." He says, "Nicole was saying she refused to endorse the president, and I called her and her husband to say that that was destructive to cause of children's health, that President Trump is a unique figure who has the courage to stand up to corrupt interests, and the endorsement would change the world." It goes on, "Nicole has never met Casey and lavishly praised her up till several months ago. Her criticism of Casey and the Oppo research she has given to social media influencers does not contain," nobody's given me any Oppo research, just so we're clear, "does not contain a single substantive claim, all innuendo. I will leave it to others to speculate what Nicole's motivation is for funding attacks on Casey and severing her relationship with the secretary. I can say from this standpoint that the commitment between Secretary Kennedy and President Trump to take on the special interest and reverse the chronic disease crisis is the most inspiring thing I've witnessed in my life." Okay, so it goes on and on and on. But somebody responds here. So Dr. Mary Bowden then it comes back and accuses Callie of lying. "Callie, why did you lie? I encourage everyone to read this article I wrote detailing you and Casey's conflicts of interest." Now, the conflicts of interest that she writes about, Dr. Bowden writes about, center around what this lower third says on the screen: big pharma data harvest is big business. So they're both tied to companies that are benefiting. Essentially, she argues that big data or health data is like the new oil in terms of how valuable it is and just the lucrative industry it is. It's a lot of money. But to kind of re-emphasize this divide among MAHA people that say, hey, look, I will say this, both sides say they want to make children healthier. Like, everybody agrees that there's a problem. Again, the question is, how far are you going to go? Are you going to go where all the facts lead, even if it's some big uniparty donor, or some big uniparty donor like Big Pharma, right? That's the question. as who has the intestinal fortitude to make everyone angry, all the captive industries upset that their grift is now going to actually be made illegal, and that's what we need to get better health outcomes. We played this yesterday. Danny Jones, the Danny Jones podcast, back 3 months ago, had Dr. Jack Cruz and Callie Means, the brother of Casey, and Dr. Mary Bowden. And this was, I think, a defining moment in this. I think this kind of encapsulates this apparent divide. And again, we will see what happens. We will see. We will know people by their fruits. But I feel like this needs to be played again. Again, Danny Jones.
We are coming off of the biggest public health crisis in our
Dr.
lifetime.
Mary Bowden.
And, while I completely agree with your message, our food supply has a lot to be desired. It's an insidious health problem that's poisoning our kids. I completely agree with that. But the shots are a more immediate and dangerous threat to our population.
Children are still getting the shot today.
Which I think is a crime.
Wait, all babies, this is our own government, are recommended to get 3 mRNA shots, and this is synthetic modified mRNA shots, by the time they're 9 months old.
Right.
And
which is crazy.
And we know that we have an abundance of data.
Yeah.
We have over 3,400 peer-reviewed published studies showing adverse reactions. We know that in young people, the increased risk of myocarditis is at least 4 times. This is an immediate threat, and these COVID shots should have been pulled off the market a long time ago. And my feeling is if you have a large microphone and you are in the public health space, that you are ethically obligated to speak out about this issue. And I understand that this is not your issue.
Right.
And we've talked about this.
Yeah.
The trans problem is not my issue, but I authentically feel that this gender modification in children is wrong. So I do speak out about it.
I authentically feel that in any way pushing jabs, particularly on kids, is an absolute war crime, and I've been saying that.
Do you feel like the COVID shots should be pulled off the market?
So that is not a policy stance that I'm going to say. It's not a policy
so
stance,
are you
Bobby.
giving your children? Are you giving your children the shot? Are you going to give your child?
No.
Okay, and why not?
I think that makes no sense.
Why?
From what?
Because you have reluctance about their safety.
Hold on.
Right?
Hold on. Can I respond to this?
Yeah.
So this issue of over-prescribing medications for kids, the schedule for kids, specifically. Hold on. You seem to be drawing a line of whether I'm calling for an immediate ban as a policy platform versus what I'm saying.
Personally. Can you just say personally?
Personally, I think it's an absolute travesty how we've been misled, how these were fast-tracked.
Personally, do you feel like the shot should be pulled off the market? Yes or no?
I'll give you my personal opinion. I think there should be absolutely no mandates.
So
yes. Hold on.
Okay.
Just say no, man.
I
no.
think that we have an opportunity the next year to truly reset science. This is what I feel. And we have an opportunity to have Jay Bhattacharya, who's a close friend.
We're going to reset the science, but we're going to keep the jabs on the market.
Who I, strongly push to be at the NIH.
That doesn't make
to
any
call
sense.
everyone together, review the science, have truth and reconciliation, bring that out to people, and have a process for that.
Okay. So
I think it's a general. So Jack.
the answer is no. The answer is no.
Right.
That is
That's Dr. Jack Cruz. So you see the divide here. We're going to blame Big Food. Big Food needs to be blamed. We talked about one of the things. So when Callie Means and Casey Means went on Tucker Carlson, and it was and I watched it and I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was really good. I thought what they said was really good. I thought exposing how, the big tobacco had all these scientists making cigarettes as addictive as they could with all the chemicals, and then Big Tobacco, once the government went after Big Tobacco took their money, and then they bought a bunch of food companies, and then they took those stable of scientists and they got them to work on making our food more addictive. And our food, how do we increase the profits? How do we make this stuff, basically addictive, like cigarettes? I think that's a pretty bold claim, and it's insane. And people like me, and crunchy moms out there, they've been saying this forever. There's something wrong with our food supply. You have to put the blame on big food, but you can't put all of the blame on big food. You have to also go after big pharma. And I think this is a healthy skepticism and a healthy fear. And when you have somebody like Casey Means' brother, who refuses to say that these shots need to be pulled off the market, it is a giant red flag that there are some people that you, Callie Means, are not allowed to criticize, and it has to do, it's Pfizer and Moderna and all the lot of them, over what they did to this country, regardless of whether or not President Trump wants to admit that the shots were not his greatest achievement and were actually a terror on the people. A form of you could make an argument it's a form of bioterrorism. So much of this can be seen as a way to escape actual accountability, admit to the people what our government did to us, and instead just make only big food or big ag the culprit, the scapegoat that will pile all of our sins onto and send out into the wilderness or whatever. And people are saying no. That's why, again, Nicole Shanahan says people are contacting me. Now, is it an influence op? Are people being paid to, draw skepticism or, put out skepticism about the nomination? I don't really know. I suppose that's possible. I think they're influence companies that, that run ops on everything, if you really want to be honest about it. So I just because that is happening, though, does not necessarily mean that the suspicions or the caution or the healthy skepticism of those in the MAHA movement doesn't mean those points are not valid necessarily. So, real quick, this was Mary Talley Bowden, who we just heard there on that podcast, Danny Jones podcast from 3 months ago. And she has a Substack called The Truth About True Med, Conflicts of Interest Within MAHA. And she wrote this back on April 22nd of this year. She says, today the FDA announced it's banning food dyes in Skittles, Cheetos, and other packaged products. That's a win. And MAHA is ecstatic. The leader of this effort, Callie Means, calls the forces he's facing demonic and the FDA's actions historic. At the same time, Callie is strangely quiet on the fact that in the past 10 months, over 9 million children have been injected with the latest version of an experimental gene product with no long-term safety data, and the government not only supports this but expects this. According to CDC guidelines, all babies are expected to get 3 Pfizer mRNA shots by the age of 9 months. Once again, this is a valid criticism. It is amazing that we're getting the toxins and poison out of our food and that there appears to be movements to do that. But why are they avoiding the big pharma elephant in the room, the giant vaccine syringe in the room? Why are they avoiding it? Who are they working for? She says, when I spoke to Callie during the Danny Jones podcast, he assured me he had no interest in securing a position with President Trump. Apparently, he was not sincere, as he is now an official special government employee charged with assisting HHS Director Robert F. Kennedy to embolden the MAHA movement. Callie, who convinced Robert F. Kennedy to drop out of the presidential race and endorse Trump, has much to gain from his high-power political position. So she goes on to talk about Callie Means has a company called True Med. And it essentially is stretches the applicability of health savings accounts or flexible savings accounts to include a wide variety of wellness products traditionally not eligible for purchase using an HSA or an FSA. So Means has been pushing for policy changes to support the broader use of HSA and FSA funds for products such as cold plunge systems, vitamins, and health tech gadgets. And by the way, all of those things might be fantastic, but you can see here we want to broaden broaden the scope of what can be purchased with these HSAs and FSAs. She goes on to talk about, by the way, you've got taxpayer incentives. Taxpayer money is involved here. She talks about TrueMed, this company, and then she talks about this other company that TrueMed has partnered with called 8 Sleep, which is this really expensive bed that you can get that will, monitor your sleep patterns, monitor your vital signs. The bed can cool and that sort of thing. But the interesting thing that happens here, aside from the fact that sometimes the bed has mold issues because in order to cool they have to utilize water, is when it starts talking about the data collection. The data collection, according to Dr. Bowden here, is the new oil. And I find that, I don't know a lot about this, so when I was reading this article this morning, for the first time, this is news to me. It says Dr. Casey Means dropped out of her Stanford residency in 2019, and then she created a company called Levels. So you have this company called TrueMed from one sibling and Levels from another sibling. Levels sells health-focused online memberships that include continuous glucose monitors and nutrition devices. So that's what they do. Patients with diabetes are going to use these electronic monitors to monitor their blood glucose levels. Anyway, they essentially collect that. That's also data as well. So you have this sleep bed thing that's collecting your data. You have these glucose monitors that are collecting your data. And interestingly enough, these companies, here she says, data is the new oil. So these companies have a claim that they will not sell your data to third parties, but there's a catch. They will sell your data to third parties if they basically unspecify the data, or strip off your name, strip off who you are, strip off your identity, but then they take the data of your biometric data, and then they will sell that, which is interesting. Listen to this. She says, data is a $1 trillion industry, and the value of healthcare data in particular is growing tremendously, both in terms of economic potential and strategic importance. The compounded annual growth rate of healthcare data is projected to be 13.85% from 2022 to 2030. The market was valued at $32.9 billion in 2021 and is expected to grow to $105 billion by 2030. Now, I watched the interview with Shanahan on Glenn Beck's show, and this was what her main concern that she said in the interview. The 5-minute portion that I heard was that the data selling is a giant red flag. The buyers of healthcare data are diverse, ranging from pharmaceutical companies to health insurers to data brokers who aggregate and sell this information. Tech giants like Google, through partnerships with health systems, leverage this data for developing health-related algorithms and services. Pharmaceutical companies are very interested in acquiring healthcare data for developing and marketing new drugs, but must navigate data privacy laws. The market for healthcare data involves both direct purchases and partnerships or data sharing agreements where data might be exchanged for services or insights rather than direct monetary transactions. Pfizer reportedly spends $12 million annually on health data. But on the darker side, you have stolen data. It's also often sold on the dark web to identify thieves or for extortion. Healthcare data is among the most valuable on the black market due to its comprehensive nature. It includes not just personal identifiers, but detailed health records, which can be exploited for identity theft, medical fraud, and other illegal activities. For instance, individual medical records can sell for $250 each, significantly more than other types of personal data. Hackers value healthcare data 50 times higher than credit card data. So anyway, in the rest of the article goes on to talk about how these companies, she says, what does the power of data for Casey and Callie means? Their mantra, we need the data, carries hidden implications, opportunity for innovation or exploitation. TrueMed and Levels collect vast health data, potentially monetized through de-identified sales to third parties like pharmaceutical firms, which spend millions annually. Callie's media blitz blurs genuine health advocacy with corporate marketing, she writes, leveraging MAHA to promote TrueMed's agenda. His HHS role, coupled with orchestrating RFK Jr.'s Trump alliance, intensifies concerns about data co-modification and policy bias, especially as HHS faces layoffs and restructuring that could prioritize corporate-friendly reforms over public health. This is a very interesting article, again, by Dr. Bowden, and she's certainly one of the ones who thinks this Surgeon General pick is just a little bit concerning, to say the least. I think that's an understatement right now. People are calling Laura Loomer and Callie Means are going at each other's throats right now. So anyway, so you tell me, what do you think? I mean, sound off. Tweet at me at Real Paul Harrell. What do you really think is going on here? Again, there are people that love this pick. And again, I'm super excited that there's actually someone in there that's admitting that our food is toxic. But are they going to go after the whole enchilada? Are they going to really cut the head off the snake, which is the medical industrial complex, big pharma, all of these captured regulatory agencies that are not actually regulating the companies they're supposed to because they're bought and paid for? That's what RFK Jr. is going in there supposedly to fix. But like all of this stuff, we're going to have to wait and see. I want to tell you about Red Vive Health, ladies and gentlemen, the great red light panels that you can get over at redvivehealth.org/Paul. So on Monday, we're going to be talking with Matt Troy. Matt Troy is a salesman at Red Vive Health, and he tells me that these panels have absolutely changed his life. He's an MMA fighter, still competes, spars with guys half his age, and he credits the red light panel as being one of the main reasons that he's able to do it. Red light therapy, red and near infrared light. I was talking to him the other day, and he was telling me, the effects that red light can have on maintaining your vision, especially if you're getting older and you don't want to have to get glasses. But one of the things he told me was, there's this feature on the panel where you can you can have the red light and the near infrared light on at the same time, or you can have one or the other independently. And I asked him, I said, Matt, why would you only want to use the near infrared light? He said, I'll tell you why. He said, if you have a headache, you go sit in front of one of these red light panels and you turn the red light feature off because, it's a very bright light that, shines in your eyes. And you only put the near infrared light on and just let that penetrate, deeper into your body, into your head. And he says, and it relieves my headaches. He says, that's one of the reasons why we did this. One of the reasons why you can toggle between the red light and the near infrared light. Of course, the red light's great for the skin, increased collagen, according to studies, which produces anti-aging properties. And then the near infrared light is what really stimulates the mitochondria of your cells, whether, your whole body's made up of cells. So your organs, all those cells, everything. I want you to give it a try. It's a 60-day money-back guarantee, and nobody ever returns these things. I've been talking to these great folks at Red Vive as well. Nobody is actually returning these things. 0% interest financing is available as well. 60-day money-back guarantee, and I bet you'll be throwing away your box before that's up, because you're going to understand once you use this that this works to reduce inflammation throughout the entire body. It's redvivehealth.org/Paul. That's redvivehealth.org/Paul. Go there today. and experience the healing power of red light. We're going to hear from our good friend Mike Lindell, and I'm going to be back here in 60 seconds.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
So that promo code is PH, MyPillow.com, PH, and they've got huge summer savings going on right now, up to 80% off at MyPillow.com. I want you to check it out. They've got a great deal right now on sheets, any size, and check it out across the site. Also, they've got these energy drinks as well that they're giving you like a free 3-pack of Mike Lindell's new energy drink, Rev 7, so you can check that out as well. And folks, just want to remind you that the rest of the show brought to you by Curable Premium Health, Curable CBD, CBD oil, CBD cream, CBD bath soaks. We'll tell you more about Curable a little later in the show, but we appreciate our partners and sponsors. Okay, so let's talk Jeffrey Epstein, shall we? Did Jeffrey Epstein kill himself? Disappointingly, the FBI director, Kash Patel, says he killed himself. He was in questioning with Senator John Kennedy, a Republican from Louisiana, and this is what the exchange sounded like.
Did Jeffrey Epstein hang himself, or did somebody kill him?
Senator, I believe he hung himself in a cell in the Metropolitan Detention Center.
Are you going to release all the information about that?
Senator, we are working through that right now with the Department of Justice.
When do you think you'll have it done, Cash?
I think in the near future, sir.
Like before I die?
Senator, we've been working on that, and we're doing it in a way that protects victims and also doesn't put out into the ether information that is irrelevant for production of the public, such as CSAM.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so, what's he going to say? Nobody really believes that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, but he says, I believe he hung himself in his cell. That's the official narrative, and I guess if you're going to change that narrative, like if you were going to come out as a government official and say, no, he didn't kill himself, you probably wouldn't use a Senate hearing that's not specifically about that issue to do it. You would hold a press conference and say, hey, we've got new evidence. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, and you would release it there. So, I get it, but it's still, it's disappointing, right? It's disappointing that, you see these guys, they make these podcast circuits like Kash Patel did, and then when you go into government, there is a metamorphosis that takes place. The question is, how much do you change when you go into government? And, you have to take into consideration that, different responsibilities that you have, and especially if you're, the head of the FBI. I get that, but it's still like, come on. Jeffrey Epstein, nobody believes Jeffrey Epstein actually killed himself. Matter of fact, Jim Ferguson highlights this. Epstein murder bombshell, guards drugged, cameras disabled, state actor involved. It was a very awkward exchange between Ann Vandersteel and Patrick Byrne. It really wasn't awkward on Ann's part. It was more awkward on Patrick's part. Whether you believe this or not, Patrick Byrne, while on air, gets a message saying, don't say what you're about to say, and, after some wiggling around, he then says it. Listen to this. It's about Epstein.
6 months ago, I was sent a message I was sent, somebody came to see me, and among the things that I was told 8 months ago, among the things I was told so that I would understand what we were up against, is I was told a detail of the crime scene. Oh, I'm getting a message from someone saying, do not reveal this. Sorry, I actually got a message from, I got a message I just got a message flashed up to me from someone saying, do not reveal this. And it's a person who knows.
Okay. I don't want anybody, I don't want you to reveal anything that can harm an investigation or harm you. That's okay. That's okay.
No, I'll tell you. I'm going to tell you. It was from the Epstein death scene. There was a detail that was shared with me, just one little detail of the scene that tells you, that was conveyed to me so I would understand what we were up against. And the the detail of the scene, of the crime scene, was one that this one detail shows that it was not a suicide. It was in fact a murder. And it's a detail that once you understand it, reveals we have to be, this isn't the Gambino family. This isn't the Genovese family. This had the sophistication. Well, I've got to say it now because otherwise they might kill me. But no, literally there was just someone sending me flash message, do not say this. So this is you know how the guards.
Come on, Patrick.
You know how the guards, we know that the guards, okay, to the person who just sent me that message, send me an explanation. Should I or should I not? If you don't want me to say this, give me 10 words as to why I should not say this. In the meantime, I'm going to give a little bit more color. It was a detail that was meant to communicate to me it was a murder and indicate to me the seriousness of the people behind it. Well, I guess it's too late. It was the Epstein crime scene, and the guards, I was told that the guards, you know, who fell asleep in the...
Right.
Fell asleep, and we all assumed they were bribed. Yeah, we all thought that. Well, guess what? They did fall asleep. Their blood was tested the next morning, and they found traces of nitrous oxide. So what's that tell you, Ann?
Wow.
It would suggest that this is a state actor of some kind involved, so much more sophisticated if that's the case. So, I mean, I don't know how old this video is. I mean, Jim Ferguson posted it today at 4:04 a.m. He lives across the pond, obviously. But yeah, that's a big deal, right? But it confirms. I mean, nobody believed the official narrative. Nobody believed the official narrative. So that's why it's just kind of frustrating. But that brings us to James O'Keefe. Yesterday, we covered at the end of the show how people were pretty disappointed with James O'Keefe's bombshell story that ended up just being about, you know, Prince Andrew, sleeping with underage girls and his connection to Epstein, which we already knew about. Very interesting thing happened with Alex Jones claiming that Pam Bondi was covering up. Jones said that he thought that the O'Keefe report was going to be about how Pam Bondi was covering up the Epstein files in some way. And so, but then the video dropped and that she wasn't even mentioned. And so then I thought we were going to have to wait till next week. I think that's what the last report said. James O'Keefe said, tune in next week. Well, then he didn't. He released another report yesterday. Yesterday evening is when I saw it. And, well, you tell me, there's still people disappointed in even in this, but just you tell me what you think.
Yesterday, Attorney General of the United States Pam Bondi was at the White House and disclosed what she represented as brand new information in relation to Jeffrey Epstein. The existence of tens of thousands of videos featuring little children.
There are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn.
Now, this is the first time an official has publicly acknowledged that videos of Epstein and his victims exist. What you may not know is just 9 days prior, the Attorney General had a very similar conversation with a total stranger in a restaurant.
Do you know when the Epstein files are going to get released?
We hope soon. The FBI's been.
Okay.
So.
Any dates?
No, you know what it is? There are tons and thousands of videos.
Yeah.
And it's all with little kids. So they have to go through every one.
In the past, officials have spoken about the, quote, mountain of evidence in the Epstein case, but they've never, previous to that moment, acknowledged on the existence of videos of, quote, little kids. Just a few days later, at 2 p.m. on May 1st, our reporter sent the AG's office the text of the recording. We asked why this detail had not been disclosed to the public, but was instead being told to a random stranger at a restaurant. The Attorney General used almost the exact same language as she did with the stranger in the restaurant, language that we shared with her press office.
There are tens and thousands of videos.
Yeah.
And it's all with little kids.
There are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn.
Let me tell you what happened. Do you see that says May 7th? I think it's pretty clear what happened with this whole thing. May 7th was when O'Keefe was supposed to drop his story. And instead he dropped a Prince Andrew story. He was going to drop this story about Bondi, but then Bondi went out and had you can assume had a question about Epstein in the audience that, she arranged to happen. And then she says the very thing she said in private, she says in public. This is very, to me, it's obvious now at this point. I think I speculated something close to this yesterday, and I think now I'm proven right. So he had to redo his report. Everybody was waiting for some bombshell, and Pam Bondi goes out there on May 7th, which was Wednesday. That was the day everybody was waiting on the O'Keefe report to drop. That was also the day that Alex Jones put out the video saying, I've talked to O'Keefe, I think it's Bondi, and I think she's covering up for Epstein somehow. And I don't know how you would get that just from the limited video that we have. But I think that's why it took so long for O'Keefe to release. Everybody was waiting and refreshing. Like in the late afternoon, people were saying, they were doing those memes of the Pablo Escobar guy or whatever, sitting around, waiting on the O'Keefe bombshell story to drop. Well, I think they were editing the Prince Andrew video. I think they were rush editing the Prince Andrew video because what they were going to put out about Pam Bondi had just kind of been blown up because Pam Bondi went out to the microphone and said publicly what she had said privately, and they had given the quote. They had given her the quote in the email. I think that's what James is saying here. I think that explains a lot. I think the question still would be like, well, what's the big there? We still want the Epstein files. I think it's a big deal that we now have, a lot of people some people have tried to diminish what Jeffrey Epstein did and just talk about how this was a sex ring of underage girls, meaning 16, 17 years old. It's a bigger deal that, again, the conspiracy theories are right once again, that they have thousands and thousands of videos of actual children, child porn. It sounds like it's very, very young little kids. And so I think that's certainly a big development. In a way, we probably wouldn't have gotten that. I think it's safe to say if it wasn't for O'Keefe emailing their press office, and this is what O'Keefe is saying, we wouldn't have gotten this public admission of what she said privately. So, in that way, to put a positive spin on it all, you could say that, speaking truth to power worked in this case and got somebody to admit publicly what they admitted privately. Although the idea that there are a bunch of video, we've had, there are other instances of where they've talked about all of the videos and stuff as well existing, but maybe they just haven't been as specific as this. And I could have missed something in that.
Child porn.
Now, we hesitated to publish this story, but believe, like we did yesterday, that the public has a right to know. And this one raises serious questions. On one hand, why did our country's highest law enforcement official share this information first not with the American people, but with the self-described nanny at brunch. But more importantly, why was this information held back in the first place? Does this show that a government apparatus is still working behind the scenes to protect powerful people involved in the scandal? Based upon the response to our Epstein story yesterday, it's clear that the American people want answers, and they want accountability.
So one of the critics of James O'Keefe is a guy named Clandestine, who we definitely follow when it comes to the bioweapons labs and stuff in Ukraine. He thinks this is just a really bad look. He says this was the big reveal that all the Bondi haters have been hyping up. This is an absolute nothing burger. He writes, Bondi is asked when the Epstein files will be released. She says she cannot give dates and that the FBI are working on it. And there are tens of thousands of videos of little kids that the FBI are going over. Firstly, this is not news, as Bondi has been on Fox News very consistently for weeks. Okay. Keeping the public updated, she has told us that the SDNY delivered tens of thousands of files, audio, video, etc. Epstein was running a honeypot, blackmail operation, trafficking children, and arrested on charges for abusing children. This is not breaking news. We've known this for years. Yet that scumbag O'Keefe is trying to paint this as if Bondi is somehow covering up the Epstein files, when in reality she just confirmed once again that they're still looking over it, and hopefully it will be done soon. This doesn't paint Bondi in a bad light at all, he says, and those trying to push this as some sort of scandal are no allies of MAGA or the American people. Well, here's the deal, and that's, obviously they're at odds. There's a big disagreement here with O'Keefe. Somebody like Pam Bondi, somebody like a Kash Patel, I'll just say this again: if you don't produce results, and I'm willing. I think everybody needs to be as vocal as they want to be and demand accountability. And you make a big arrest, great. We can celebrate the big arrest of 200 pedophiles, and then you have an obligatory, hey, by the way, stay on the Epstein stuff. Where are the Epstein files? If you're Pam Bondi and you're Kash Patel and you don't produce results, criminal prosecutions and arrests, everybody is going to think you're in on it. Everybody is going to think you're in on it in a cover-up, as they should. As they should. We're at a point now where there is a cascading failure of confidence in government institutions, from dog catcher to the White House. Just with where we're at, and none of us should feel guilty about, none of us should feel guilty about wanting accountability and being hard on even the elected officials we voted on to make sure they get the job done. They're there to represent us, not to come back and give us a bunch of excuses about why they can't arrest some Republican donor who was on a plane with Jeffrey Epstein. Okay? And that's just the truth. I hope Pam Bondi does it. We should pray for Pam Bondi. We should pray for Kash Patel. We should pray for these people to have the fortitude to bring criminals to justice and to be a terror. The government should be a terror against the evildoer. They're given the sword for a reason. So, anyway, all the infighting, I'm sure, is going to continue, and we will continue to cover it as well. And hopefully, we'll be able to look back and say, hey, we got some positive results. Folks, this is the Curable website, curable.com, Kuribl.com. This is the place to go for all of your CBD needs. CBD fights inflation. It's not inflation. Boy, wouldn't that be great if we just took all of our CBD and our dollar was more valuable. CBD fights inflammation. And it's natural. You're not taking your NSAIDs, your ibuprofen, and that sort of thing. The muscle cream does it externally, but then they have the tinctures that you can drop under your tongue or drop in your mouth. And they taste good. They've got a cinnamon one. They've got an orange zest one. And they also have the gummies that you can ingest that will get you to sleep and keep you asleep, because now there's 10 milligrams of CBD, and they also added 3 milligrams of melatonin. CBD sleep support gummies. You will go to sleep, you will stay asleep, and you'll feel relaxed. I want you to go to Kuribl.com. That's Kuribl.com. And when you check out, you use promo code Paul20. If you don't know about the anti-inflammatory benefits of CBD, I want you to go to Kuribl.com and read up on it. they've got that tab right there, frequently asked questions. Go do the research, and this is a great alternative instead of having to pop Aleve, ibuprofen, or Tylenol all the time, which some studies show are not really good for your health long term. CBD is natural. They don't use pesticides at Curable when they grow it. They harvest it. They grow their own. I mean, they grow what you're putting in your body. They have grown and have overseen it. So I want you to check it out, curable.com, promo code Paul20. That's promo code Paul20. Okay, so here is the time where I tell you, because we're running out of time on the show today, and I have left a lot on the cutting room floor. We didn't get to talk about a bunch of stuff. But what we didn't get to talk about Judge Jeanine Shapiro. Now's the time of the show where I urge you, if you don't, to go to church. Go to church and find a church that preaches the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ and his mighty ability to save sinners, such as me. And we didn't get to talk about the Pope either. But there are churches out there that you probably want to avoid. And here's one of them. Courtesy of Protestia, the Muhlenberg Lutheran Church on May the 4th. So the last Sunday it was May the 4th, so you had all this, May the 4th be with you, May the 4th be with you. A lot of people don't realize that Star Wars has been ruined. So, some people, Star Wars is gay now, so nobody really cares about May the 4th be with you, but that didn't stop some woke pastors from trying to work May the 4th be with you into a sermon. So if you don't go to church, you need to go to church, but you don't need to go to a church like this.
How could you not think of the martyrdom of Stephen as a foundational story for George Lucas to write the death of Obi-Wan Kenobi on the Death Star in Star Wars A New Hope in 1977, right? Obi-Wan's stoic resolve as he faced down his former pupil Darth Vader, now the physical embodiment of evil and empire, stating fearlessly, "Strike me down and I shall become more powerful than you could possibly imagine." I mean, come on. The sermon writes itself. And then it even says in Acts 6:15 that Stephen sat under trial and his face shone and his appearance was like that of an angel. Was your mind not just hyperspaced back to the swamps of Dagobah? As wise Master Yoda told a young Luke Skywalker, luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. I'm sure you've all fully anticipated this sermon, where eventually I would say something like, in the depth of Empire's shadow, as it creeps across our land and our galaxy, dear friends, be a lightsaber of hope. And if I were preaching that sermon, then I'd reach into the pulpit and I'd pull out an actual lightsaber. And I'd probably summarize and wrap up the whole thing with the most predictable sermon title ever. Dear church, with a love like Jesus, with a peace like Stephen, with courage like Obi-Wan, with a wisdom like Yoda, may the faith be with you.
My man is acting like he's delivering the sermon of his life in this video. This guy's had May the 4th. I mean, this guy saw that May the 4th was going to fall on a Sunday. He's had this thing circled for 5 years on the calendar. He's probably writing his sermon for a long time. Yeah, just go to a church that preaches the Bible, ideally, just kind of line by line, exegetically, and tells you what the Word of God says, what it means. What it means for Christian life, and trusts the Holy Spirit to change your hearts with the power of the Word of God being spoken and preached, and the Word rightly divided. Find a church like that if you don't go. For those of you that do go to church, though, I want to wish you a great weekend. I want to wish you a blessed Lord's Day. And unless I'm providentially hindered, I'm going to be back here on Monday wishing you a happy Monday. Thank you guys so much for watching. Can't do the show without you. God bless everybody. Follow me on X at Real Paul Harrell, and make sure you follow X American News on X as well. And you can also go to xamericannews.com for archived shows and that sort of thing. God bless everybody out there watching. Have a great weekend.
The very foundation of the Christian faith is based